Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 29 of the North Star podcast. Today we have Casey from Hildebrandt Athletics, and she will be talking about her journey as a trainer and just her health and fitness journey as well. So welcome, Casey. Thank you so much. Hi. I'm just going to start it off, Casey. I usually with, trainers and anyone kind of in this space, I always like to just start them off with their journey and like how they got started and why they got started. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to leave it up to you now, and you're just going to give us like kind of a little spiel of how you got started and, why fitness out of everything.
Okay, so I'll do a little backstory first.
Let's hear it.
So first I thought I wanted to be in like real estate of some sort. So I was doing an administrative job at a real estate firm, and came to find out I hate desk jobs. I hated 9 to 5. I did not like it. And then when COVID hit, the office closed anyways, and I wasn't working there anymore, whatever. So I ended up working at Starbucks. There was not really much to do because of COVID. So then I started going to the gym. And one of my family friends, I'd always been active throughout high school and stuff. I always went to the gym. But one of my family friends was a trainer, and I went with him. I started going with him a few times a week and started to see so much more progress in such a short time frame versus going to the gym for years before and not really knowing what to do. Yeah. And I was like, oh, there's a method to all this. It's not just showing up and doing random things. Then I decided I was really into it, and I signed up to do my PT and nutrition coach course. And that's kind of how I started out. Mm-hmm. And then probably 40% of the way through my course, I ended up getting a heart condition called pericarditis. Okay. And ended up having to go see a cardiologist and stuff, and he told me I could not work out or do anything to get my heart rate up for 3 months. Whoa. And it shattered me. I left the office with my mom crying. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure I can't do anything for 3 months? What do you mean? So it was just an interesting process, going through the school and wanting to try out all these things I was learning and still feeling passionately about it. And I just felt that was such a big part of taking care of myself and my mental health. And then I kind of had that taken away. And instead of falling victim to it, I was just kind of oh my gosh, I cannot wait until I can finally work out again. I would just go to the gym with my friends and tell them what to do. I was couldn't just stay home and not be involved in it in any way. Then right on 3 months, went back, had chest pains again, got extended another month, those kind of things. And then, as soon as I felt better, it was just I don't know, I was so into it, and I was I will never not move my body and do those things again, because that sucked. I was just counting down the days to be able to do that again. So, I want to ask more about your journey. I have some follow-up questions, but I want to hear about this kind of heart condition. What does it mean for you now? Because this is interesting, because I've never had this before. Yeah, it's fine now. I do have a high resting heart rate, and when I work out, my heart rate is definitely higher than it would have been before. Okay. But that's about it. Okay. They told me I could go back to living life regularly, and hopefully it doesn't come back.
Is there things to manage it?
There's medications and stuff you can take. I was on one. I was on 3. One, I don't know what it did. The other one was a very high dose ibuprofen. Okay. Which makes you feel so sick. You have to just take so many every day.
Oh, I can imagine.
So I hated that, because I would just feel so sick. So kind of there's medications and stuff, but you still just can't do anything.
And how does it happen? Is it hereditary or?
So it's usually you'll have a virus somewhere, a viral infection or something, and then it just spreads to the heart. So it could be you could go get your teeth cleaned at the dentist, and if there's like a cut or something and it gets infected, it could just like spread to your heart. You could get that. So it's not like a crazy rare thing that's never happened sure, but very random.
And do you know how you got it?
Well, when I went, they did all my blood work, and like all my white blood cell count levels were normal and everything. Like if my body had just fought an infection, those would have gone down and they were normal. So they were kind of like, I have no clue why you have this, but you have it. And I was like, okay. There was really no like further investigation into why I had it.
Interesting. What were the just like heart, like, I mean, like
every
palpitations?
time I inhaled and exhaled, I felt like there's like a stabbing. And then when you would lay down, it's like really bad. It wasn't like crazy pain, but obviously
there's something wrong.
You're not supposed to be in pain when you breathe. Yeah, I thought I had like, I don't know why, I thought I had strep throat or something when I first started feeling it, because I felt like the pain in my, I don't know, I thought I felt it like in my throat. Yeah. So I was like, oh man, I think I have strep throat or something. And then my friend is a nurse, and she was like, oh, you have chest pains? I'm like, yeah. She's like, go to ER right now. I'm like, oh, no. Yeah, so that's how I found out.
Well, no, it's just interesting because I've never like heard of it before personally. So I think it's cool to like have something a little bit different that isn't as common, maybe, like that people have gone through, and maybe somebody's listening and they've gone through it or something. So I think the biggest thing for like us right now to chat about too is kind of following up on your journey about in the way of being able to chat a little bit like where did you come from, but also to like where did you find yourself struggle the most when it came to fitness?
I would say, okay, so I was always naturally like very small and lean growing up, and like in shape and whatever. But I just never thought that I was athletic. Like I just thought it was something you're either born with or not. Like you're either coordinated and good at those kind of things, or you're just not. Yeah. And I just thought that I wasn't. And so after high school, during COVID, I definitely gained a lot of weight. And I was still active, still going to the gym and stuff like that. And I don't even think that I knew at the time that I had gained weight. Like now when I look back on photos, I'm like, when did I?
When did it happen? What do you think led to it?
I think I was just living a really unhealthy lifestyle. I think I had like toxic relationships. I was drinking a lot. I was going out a lot. Just like.
So things just added up.
Just things added up. And also like, especially for women, I feel like you go from being a child to like a woman, and obviously your body changes, and it's kind of like abrupt and out of nowhere. Like, oh, why don't I look like what I've looked like my entire life anymore? Like what happened? I'm not really doing anything different, but I just like look so different. And like I said, I don't think I really realized it at the time though. Like I knew I was unhappy with how I looked, but I just thought I didn't like my body. I didn't really consider that like I was heavier than I should have been for my height and like build and those kind of things. And then when I started going to the gym with someone who knew what they were doing and whatever, and just got a lot leaner, and like at my heaviest I was probably like 137 pounds, but I was probably 5 feet at the time. And then at my lightest I was probably like 110. Okay. So pretty big difference for like my build for sure. But yeah, just the difference of like having the knowledge of what to do and not spending time doing the wrong things, because there's so many like misconceptions out there of what you should do and what women should do to lose weight or be lean and those kind of things.
Were you scared to gain muscle?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
I know sometimes like.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't really scared to. Now when I think back, I'm like, what did I used to do at the gym? Like, I can't even remember what I would do. I went to Club
Cardio?
16. Yeah, definitely cardio. Yeah. Probably legs every day. Yeah. But then again, I'm like, what did I do for legs? Like, I didn't know how to do deadlifts or squat or anything like that. So I don't even know. I was probably doing like leg extension, leg curl.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. Like one of those little circuit things.
Yeah, the circuit
at
training.
Club 16.
Yeah.
So effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably what I was doing there. And then just had like no knowledge on nutrition, no knowledge on like the more lean muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is. So just like, I don't know. The biggest battle is showing up and going and doing it. But at the same time, like if you show up and you're just doing the wrong things for what your goals are, it's just, you just waste so much time just without having the knowledge. So once I started training, I was like, oh, okay.
This is what
happens when you know what you're doing. So
what would you say was your biggest fear about making a change? Or what is your biggest fear moving forward when it comes to fitness?
Currently?
For yourself, yeah. Is it
Ooh.
like gaining weight? Is it like, what's your...
No, I never really had the fear of like gaining muscle or looking bulky or anything like that. I'd say it depends who you spend a lot of your time with. Like if you spend your time with girls who are scared of like being strong and, you know, having muscles and those kind of things, you start to kind of play into it, right? Like if they just want to do like very light Pilates and stuff like that, and you're like deadlifting 205 and whatever, you're like, oh, you know, like no one else is really doing this, like female wise that I hang out with, like am I gonna look bulky or this or that? But that just never happened to me. Like the stronger I got and the more serious I took fitness, I feel like the leaner I got. So I don't know if I have fears like that. I just go into things with like, what kind of exercise do I like to do? What feels good? And it's very performance based for me. I'm like, I want to lift this as heavy as I can. I want to run as fast as I can. I want to, those kind of things. I stopped hyper fixating on like trying to hack like how to grow this and shrink this and whatever. And just once I stopped hyper fixating on how I wanted every single part of my body to look and just focused on like the actual movements I like to do, I feel like I felt and looked better anyways. And I wasn't spending so much energy just caring about how I looked anymore, because it's so consuming. And like, yeah, there's just, you can nitpick everything, but there's no point.
How do you feel where you are now, and what is your goals moving forward?
I'm happy with where I am now. Definitely my goals moving forward would just be strength increase always, and like overall athleticism and coordination. Because definitely when I first started training, it was very like, I don't want to say bodybuilding, but like hypertrophy based. And then when I kind of got into more functional stuff and athletic stuff, I was like, oh, that's way more fun. I still do hypertrophy and it's definitely very balanced, but yeah, I'd rather just be as strong as I can be and as fast as I can be and do things with my body that I couldn't do before, and just not stopping learning new things.
That's cool. No, I think like you being able to have different aspects of it as a journey, because I think even with a coach, and I've had similar conversations where most coaches go through ups and downs just like anyone else will.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to find something that makes you feel good at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know what, like, and I kind of want to touch a little bit on how nutrition really impacted you. And why did that piece really stand out to you? Because, you know, not all coaches go down the route of learning about nutrition.
Yeah.
There's some personal trainers that literally just worry about training, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So why did that piece really stand out to you that you needed to make that shift to?
I think that there's so much misconception and like negative food myths out there, and I just feel like I have pretty much always only trained like women and females and stuff. Just so many like unhealthy eating habits out there, and just negative views and relationships with food. And I hate it. Like, I just find it to be such a waste of time. I'm like, you can eat things you like. You don't have to be hungry all the time. You don't have to fast constantly. And I just kind of wanted to teach people how to do things sustainably and balanced, and just teach them how to feel better and look at it more so of like, how can I create a lifestyle that I'm really happy with and happy to adhere to, instead of like, okay, well, how do I lose weight the fastest
way possible?
Yeah, fastest way possible. Because it's just, I don't know, those are never sustainable, and it's like, it's not a race. It's okay. Just figure out what works for you, what makes you feel good, and what are you happy to continue doing.
When it came down to the nutrition aspect and talking about sustainability and things, like at the time when you were going towards your goals and you were trying to achieve, a different physique and things like that, were you worrying about nutrition, or did that come later?
That came later.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think just doing the right things to build lean muscle kind of really got me to where I wanted to go anyways. And I had like a protein dad. Anytime we would go out, my plate came to me, he'd be like, eat your protein, finish your protein first. So I think I always naturally did get the protein in that I needed. And then when I started doing the proper training, that kind of came into place. Yeah. So yeah, nutrition came later for me. I don't think I had too much of a problem with my relationship with food. But when I started to see other people's, I was like, why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. Let's stop.
Yeah. Well, and it's really hard. Some people learn those things over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So to unlearn it, it sometimes takes a lot of work.
It's mind-blowing to them at some point. I'm not supposed to just do cardio and not eat carbs. No.
Yeah, you can do the total opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a pretty common one. I think, what are some other myths, now that we're talking about myths, what are some other myths that you've heard? Because you say you've worked with mostly females over the years.
Yeah, mainly females.
I have kind of a mix.
Yeah.
So it's just, I would love to hear your kind of some myths or things that you've heard that have been debunked.
It's mainly carbs. It's always carbs.
Don't eat carbs.
Don't eat. If I'm how is nutrition since I've seen you? Well, I didn't eat carbs, and I'm that's not what I asked. And that's a shame. So let's start from scratch here, because that's not what I'm asking. We can eat carbs. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's always carbs.
You know what it is? It's with a lot of people, it's a fear, right?
Yeah.
But also too, it's been what the media has really fed over the years. So my thing with that, I don't know how you approach it, but I would slowly introduce it back in.
Yeah.
Because if you let's say someone's they haven't eaten, let's say maybe they're eating 25 to 50 grams of carbs, and then you're well, now I want you to eat 250.
Yeah.
It's what? I'm now quadrupling the amount. Mm-hmm. So I think adding in it slowly, but it is tough. Honestly, a lot of times with nutrition coaching, it's not even really about the information sometimes. It's actually about the mindset that you have towards the nutrition itself. Yeah. So I don't know if you found that before, or kind of your experience now with coaching. But, it would be cool if you share a little bit about what you've experienced too.
Sorry, what do you mean?
With experience with clients, what have you been experiencing with them with nutrition and things like that? Have you had a hard time? Have they been able to just the nutrition part, or has there been some mindset stuff that you've been working on with them? What's some pieces that really stand out for you?
Some people really have that all or nothing approach instilled in them. And some people want to be on an elimination diet. They can't understand that they could just do things in a little bit more of a balanced way, and that will work. It's okay, well, should I do keto? Should I do carnivore? Should I be intermittent fasting? And some of those, they just want to do something. It's they almost want a box to put themselves into, because then they can just go all in on that. So it's hard to teach somebody, how to go backwards and just have things in moderation and kind of fix that unhealthy relationship with how you view food. other people come in and they're just like really, you can kind of see the weight lifted off their shoulders when they hear how non-restrictive and balanced it can be. Like just bringing in the exercise and, you know, upping your protein and making sure you get enough fiber. Don't worry about cutting every single thing out, but like eat colorful foods, limit what you don't feel like, limit what doesn't make you feel good kind of thing, right? Like pay attention to how your body feels after you eat certain things. Yeah, those kind of things. Stay within your calorie range for what your goal is, hit your protein goal, and just like eat what makes you feel good. And yeah, introduce that weight training and hit your steps, those kind of things. And some women just kind of light up and they just kind of fall in love with the process, and they're like, oh, it doesn't have to be this, you know, I'm only doing cardio and I'm hungry all the time and I'm in a bad mood and I can't wait to hit my 3-week goal because I want to stop doing this diet and training method immediately, instead of just, you know, they like it, they don't mind, they're excited to keep doing it, they've seen results, and you know, people just want to keep doing it.
What when it comes down to your view on, you said foods that make you feel good. You said that, and I kind of want to touch on that. What do you mean by that? Do you mean digestibility? Do you mean, you know, like what, like energy wise? Like what's kind of like your premise on that? Because I know we've chatted off camera a little bit about like certain intolerances and stuff like that. So I think it'd be cool for you to touch a little bit on your experience with that.
So yeah, foods that make you feel sluggish. Are they very hard on your body to digest? Do you feel tired and gross constantly after you eat? Then maybe you're eating something that just isn't right for you and your body. I had a lot of issues, like health issues, a couple years ago, and I just could not figure out what was wrong with me. Like my stomach hurt all the time. I felt gross. I was constantly, I would call them food comas. Every time I would like eat a meal, I would literally need a nap right after. Just so tired and sluggish, and like a lot of brain fog, not feeling well. And every time I would talk to my doctor, we just couldn't figure out what it was. Nothing was coming up in my blood work. Every time we did my blood work, she was like, you look really healthy. Like, I don't understand. Other than I had really, really low iron, and I needed to go get iron infusions at the hospital for like 3 weeks straight.
That's very common with females.
Which is just, it just sucks when you get to the, like, I just remember being like, I have to go to the hospital every Sunday to get iron, and like, you're just sitting there with like people who are actually sick, and you know, it's not fun. And then, my doctor kept asking me, like, do you think it's something you're eating? Do you think you're allergic to anything? And I'm like, no, I eat well. But at the time, like, I didn't know how many things had gluten in it, which is everything. Yeah. And then she snuck testing me for celiac in my blood work once. And
just skyrocketed.
Yeah. Oh, the top of the range would have been like a 12 for whatever, I don't remember what it's called that they test you for.
I've had the test too.
Yeah. So top of range would have been 12. Mine was 235. So that, I was like, when I saw it, I was like, I'm celiac. Like, no way. I was not very excited to find out about it. But then after, I was like, okay, well, this explains so much. And like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I can just follow the diet that I'm supposed to follow. And I felt so much better, you know, within a few months. And it was like a very hard adjustment at first. But after that, you just kind of realize how, for me, nothing is worth not feeling well.
Yeah.
No food, nothing. Like, it's just not worth not feeling my best and feeling incapable in certain things, like missing out on things. I just felt like I was constantly missing out on things because I didn't feel well, or I didn't want to go do things because I didn't feel well, or I was tired or sluggish. And I think a lot of people have more food intolerances than they think. Like, gut health and everything is such a big subject right now, and no one ever feels good. Everyone's trying to improve their gut health. And I think gluten is a lot bigger of a problem for more people than they realize. Like, even if you're not celiac, I think a lot more people have gluten sensitivity or dairy sensitivity or intolerances and those kind of things. And your diet is definitely a good place to start if you don't feel well often.
Yeah, I think like when people, like for anyone listening, it's not normal to feel super bloated after every single meal you eat, and it's not normal to feel super sluggish after every single meal that you eat.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it can happen.
Yeah.
Like that's it, but like every time you eat, even if you, like I've had somebody tell me like they'll drink water or like they'll have like an apple and like they're like super bloated.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's something's
going on there.
It might not be the water or the apple. It actually
Yeah.
might be something that you're having every single day that's leading up to that.
Yeah.
But it isn't normal to feel like that all the time.
No.
And I think people think it is.
Yeah, because you're used to it.
Yes.
Because you just,
Yeah.
it's not normal to feel awful every day. And like so many more people genuinely feel awful constantly.
Yeah.
And, you know, just kind of don't take that initiative to go look at it like holistically. You know, why is it happening? Where is it coming from? And just not really taking that initiative to kind of find out.
Mm.
And I think a good way to check is even just like eliminating certain triggers, like try it out for a week, see how, you know, write down how you felt before you cut it out and try it for a few days, a week, and compare how you feel. You know, if you feel 10 times better, okay, then that's something that doesn't make you feel good when you eat it. So stop eating it.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah, it's, you know, like my biggest thing was somebody who's dealing with any sort of like gut or celiac, because I deal with celiac as well, so I literally know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
But my kind of a piece of advice, and this is what I've found for myself, so this might help someone, but, you know, I find smaller frequently meals throughout the day better for me, just because if I have a really big meal, sometimes when you have celiac or you have like a dairy intolerance or your lactose intolerance, your gut is already in a compromised state.
Yeah.
So it's already going to maybe be a little bit inflamed already.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do things to aggravate it, it might make it a little bit worse. Doesn't mean you'll have gluten, but like it could, bigger meals, stress, things like that can all lead to it. So my thing is like smaller meals. I try to like keep it pretty simple, like try to eat as many fruits and veggies and protein.
Yeah.
And, you know, root vegetables and stuff.
Just like the basics. Yeah. You know? Like,
but I think honestly, like going off of that, I think a lot of people, if they just started there, would be 80% of like what the population needs to do is like just be in that point where you're eating enough protein, veggies, fruits, and like you'll feel so much better.
Well, we're in an era where I feel like everyone wants to overcomplicate everything in terms of like exercise and diet and nutrition, and it just doesn't need to be that complicated. It's not necessarily easy, but it should be quite simple. Like just stick to the basics. Don't listen to everything you hear on a podcast by people who are not qualified to give the advice. Like for me, even when I found out I was celiac, I was kind of asking my doctor like, okay, what is that? Like, I don't really understand. And I feel like she didn't even really have much information for me. So I just kind of had to like do my own research and figure out what it was. And I couldn't believe how much of like the symptoms I was having before had to do with that. And then it's oh my gosh, this is just from what I'm eating. Yeah.
And a lot of people ignore it sometimes. I've known people that have celiac and like ignore it. And then you can actually like, well, it's a very rare case, but like you could technically die if you keep eating because of how much inflammation and how sick you can get. But yeah, that's kind of a extreme case. But
I know, but they do say like you can live a significantly shorter life if you don't follow. Because even when I was looking into it, I saw that if you're celiac and don't follow celiac diet, your chance of cardiovascular disease increases to like 40% or something. And I'm like, okay, well, I had a cardiovascular disease when I didn't know I was celiac, so that kind of makes sense.
And you probably had celiac before that.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So like, did you, as a kid, do you have any, like a lot of antibiotics at all by chance?
No.
Do you know?
I don't think that it had kicked in like young for me. I think at some point in high school.
Interesting. Was there anything that you did shifted? Did your parents maybe or anyone in your family have celiac? Usually it's hereditary sometimes.
No one but my family is Italian, and a year later my mom is still like, what is gluten?
Yeah, you're just like...
my mother has not cooked for me in 1 year since she found out. She goes, all right, you're good.
Yeah.
Like, because they say it's like, I told her, I'm like, it's your fault that I'm celiac because it comes out after your body cannot digest any more gluten, and you've pumped me full of pasta my entire life, and it's your fault. Thank you.
Mine, they think it was because of how much antibiotics I had as a kid.
Oh, interesting.
So they say, like, as a kid, if you've had a lot of antibiotics, usually your gut flora isn't as strong.
Yeah.
I was really sick as a kid, like
Yeah.
just like flus and all this. So, you know, as a parent, you just like, oh, like, you know, the information wasn't out there at the time.
Yeah, no.
Like, so, but I also have a few family members that have celiac.
Yeah.
Like that have gluten issues. So that's why I'm wondering if maybe there's some other people in your life.
Oh, probably. They're
Or
just
in
like
your-
in denial.
Yeah,
Like,
they're like, nah.
even when I'm with that side of the family and they complain to me about how they feel, I'm like, I'm a gluten police now, okay? Because when I hear people talking about how they feel, I'm like, you know,
Could be this.
sounds
Yeah.
like, but yeah, I'm sure there's definitely people who have it and are just like in denial or just don't want to go figure out
Yeah.
if they are.
You have to go to Virtuous Pie in Vancouver. It's like,
Virtuous Pie, where is it? In Kits?
no, it's in kind of close to like Rogers
Okay.
Arena downtown.
Yeah.
It's a gluten-free, dairy-free pizza place.
Oh,
But they also have like gluten-free, dairy-free ice cream sandwiches.
nice.
So it's like you can't even go wrong. It tastes literally the same as
Yeah.
like if like I've lived the other way where I've had gluten and stuff like that, and I honestly don't notice a difference.
I don't notice a difference in like anything.
They've done
I
a really
eat.
good job
Yeah,
of making like different.
it's really. I had like a meltdown the first day I found out. I'm like, no.
I can't have anything.
And now I'm like, I feel so much better. I still get to eat so many things.
Yeah.
The only thing you cannot eat is like processed drive-through food, like fast food.
Yeah,
which
so
is
it's kind of nice.
Which
It's
is
like-
nice because it's more work for you to go get treats and stuff like that, which is, there's nothing wrong with it. Like if I want to go have a sweet treat or something, it's more work to go to a place
Yeah.
that I can find them versus like you can't just stop and pull over at whatever place you drive past and they'll have something for you. So it just kind of forces you into like a little bit of cleaner eating as well, less processed stuff and definitely less like greasy fried things because you can't eat most of it. So it's kind of nice. It works out. I can still have the stuff that I really want to have once in a while, but I'm very limited to the food that you should absolutely avoid.
Yeah. Well, and like sneaky stuff is like there's certain alcohols like vodkas, obviously beer, vodkas, wheat-based vodkas, soy sauce.
Oh, soy sauce
That
was
was a
such
big
a
one.
shock.
Yeah. Twizzlers.
I'm not really a candy person, but
was,
yeah, those
that
kind
was
of
the
things.
one that kind of shocked me too when I first I was like reading on
Mine was
stuff.
ice cream.
Like specific ice creams.
Quite a lot of ice cream have gluten in them.
Oh.
And
Like added like a cookies and cream. Yeah, it would.
even like just some basic vanilla
Oh.
ice creams. I don't know why,
Oh,
but I was like,
interesting.
what? How is there
Usually,
wheat or
sometimes it's like they do. I've seen the ingredient. It's like a glucose. It's like a sugar, and sometimes there's wheat.
There's wheat in
attached to it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's probably like a binder. It just like
Yeah.
makes it maybe
Like-
fluffier or something.
Yeah,
the ice
thickens things and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any like other sneaky things that I've sauces like.
Oh, sauces is
sauces is
big one.
tough. Anything else that kind of rings a bell?
That's shocking.
Certain sushi.
Yeah, I
Sushi.
can't eat sushi. There's a gluten-free restaurant in Kits, though. That's a sushi restaurant. Very good.
There's a gluten-free Chinese food restaurant. It's like certified celiac.
Yes, you told me about
Yes,
it.
it's in. I think it's in New West.
There's so many things down there. I have a whole Excel spreadsheet that my boyfriend found with like 80 gluten-free things, like this like hardcore celiac, and they're all rated like
Oh, that's cool.
out of 5. I'll send it to you. So you
Cool.
have
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I like it. Yeah.
But there's so much. It's just like a little bit more work to get to them, which it's kind of fun though, because now it's like if I go for sushi, it's a day thing, and
Yeah.
I've waited all week to go get this gluten-free sushi that I can finally have. But yeah, anything. I'm trying to think of what else surprised me. Yeah, like salad dressings, sauces. Honestly, toothpaste.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Because the one I buy says gluten-free, and I'm like, why are they putting gluten in this? Yeah, you do really have to look at everything.
I feel like there's like some companies though that just add that label now because it's like easier to
appeal.
sell.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that too, where it's like,
how is that in?
Well, I've seen like a fruit bar or something.
Yeah.
And the ingredients are like apple and whatever, apple and pear.
Yeah.
It says gluten free. I'm like, well,
duh.
like it's a fruit, right? But so I think it's like an appeal thing too.
Yeah.
Because then if you see that label and you're someone who's like, oh, you're like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna get that right away, kind of thing. So.
Well, some people won't eat things that aren't labeled gluten free. I will, like, I'll just look at the ingredients list and look at the may contain and just kind of go off of that. But yeah, some people are very like, if it doesn't say gluten free, I'm not eating it.
Well, like, see, this is the thing with me, and it'll be interesting to hear from you, is when you eat gluten, what are your side effects?
Not good.
Like, what do you experience? Like, I'll just.
The last time I got glutened, I literally had one slice of pizza. I ordered cauliflower crust and they didn't give it to me.
It wasn't cauliflower crust.
It wasn't cauliflower crust, and I threw up like 5 times, and I had one piece. So like I got home. And I was like, I do not feel well, and then I just threw up like 5 times straight after I got home.
Did you just like did you feel bad after too then? Like for a couple days?
I wouldn't say a couple days, no. I'd say it's like a day thing, but it's interesting. You know immediately.
Oh, yeah.
You know immediately.
Like within like 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I find.
Yeah. No, it's not fun. I just feel like it depends on the person. Like my body just wants it gone. Like that's it. I don't really get sick or like rashes or anything like that. I'll just, like throw up and my body's like, I'm having none of it. Get it? Nope.
I just get really bloated and my joints start to hurt.
You don't like throw up or anything or like die?
No. I get like, but it lasts for 2 or 3 days. See, mine lasts longer.
Okay.
But I don't get nauseous. I don't get sick. I just get super bloated. Like my stomach is a rock.
Yeah.
And then my joints, like my knees and my elbows start to kind of hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's like an autoimmune response.
Yeah.
I know someone that I've heard stories where like people will literally like touch it or they'll like have a cross contamination where it's just like they made like a burger on the same and they will be like puking and like not within like 10 minutes.
Oh yeah. Because your body like almost expels it so quickly, so you get so used to not eating it. The second you consume it, your body's like rejects it. Yeah. Like what's
happening?
Why would you do that? Why would you do this to me?
Why would you do this to me? Well, and that kind of ties into, I know we've kind of went on a tangent there, but
sorry to the non-celiacs.
No, it's all no. I think honestly for people in general, it's really good because I know a lot of people usually neglect that. Yeah. Like they neglect the fact that there are going to be some foods out there that don't make them feel good, but they feel the fear of not accepting it because then they know that things are going to have to change in their life.
And for anyone who feels that way, like it's 2024, there is nothing that is going to be that bad. Like there's so many options for you out there, and there's nothing worse than feeling awful. So you're not doing yourself any favors by continuing to eat. And like you probably won't even miss it once you start feeling better and you're not sluggish, you don't have brain fog, you don't feel like you want to sit on the couch instead of go do things in life. You're not going to miss the random things you were eating. And you'll be able to find them in whatever, I promise. Today I had my first croissant in a year. So it happened.
Where'd you get it?
Downtown in Kits. It's like Cafe by Jules or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it had turkey. It was like a turkey and cheese
and it's like a gluten-free
It's a gluten-free little cafe.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had like an ice cream sandwich the other day.
Yeah, it's just, and then you just get excited about food again.
Yeah, and I didn't, and then I just felt normal after.
Yes.
Like, and it tasted, I was like, this tastes amazing.
The first time I went for Italian food after I found out, and we shared like a gluten-free pasta and pizza, and I could not believe when I got in the car that I wasn't falling into a food coma. I was like, I feel fine. I don't need a nap. I'm not in pain. This is the life. So yeah, it's just paying attention to what foods make you feel good, and you know intuitively what foods are good for you and what aren't. You know intuitively, you know what I mean? Like what you feel best eating, and just have your guidelines, like the knowledge of, okay, how many grams of protein should I have? What's my calorie range? What should my plates look like? You know, are my plates all beige and white, or are there color? And just the basics, and fueling your body for whatever it needs. Like, what do you do day to day? Yeah. So
what okay, so we're gonna go, we have like a bit more time here, but what I was thinking of asking you is, I kind of like to shift now into, if you were to start with someone that's brand new.
Yep.
Like let's say I'm brand new.
Okay.
Don't know anything about nutrition. I'm just gonna start working out. Where would you start me? Obviously, this is dependent on what I eat now, and I get that. But like, what would be a basic kind of, if somebody's like starting out, give them a little bit of like a basic plan of where they would get started.
So if I have a consultation and say like the next week we're starting, I'll usually set up their nutrition with them for the consultation, which will typically be calories based on whatever their goals are. If they want to, you know, gain weight, lose weight, maintain, whatever, and just kind of teach them how to track their calories, and more so like eat a little bit consistently. I don't think anyone should eat the same things every day, but just kind of gear them towards learning to eat intuitively. Like, okay, what's the ideal breakfast for you, that you know you hit your protein goal, you know that like you're getting in healthy fibers, healthy carbohydrates, those kind of things, and then what's the calories for that? And then you just kind of have that base knowledge that every day you're not like running to your phone to type in what you ate, because you kind of know that you're on track. So usually I'll start with that and the protein goal, and then adding like more fruits and vegetables. And then I'll typically start them off with stability training and getting into resistance training. So focusing on like core stability and stuff like that, because they need to learn how to have that core stability before they get into like their deadlifts and squats and those kind of things. So just building that foundation. But yeah, I usually will start them off with nutrition for like a week before we get into the training. Otherwise, it can kind of be a lot if you're already not feeling great because your nutrition's not amazing, and then you throw in that exercise and stuff. That's when you kind of have people like getting nauseous while they work out and those kind of things. And I think it can just be overwhelming at the beginning and leave that bad taste in their mouth, because they're just starting. It's kind of like 0 to 100. Like, I'm not eating well and I'm not exercising, and then you come in for your first session, you have a hard workout, you didn't fuel your body properly, and now you feel awful, and it's just a bad start.
Yeah, I think like I kind of want to go touch a little bit on tracking calories, because do you track calories?
No.
Currently?
No, not
You
currently.
have though before.
I have.
Yeah, okay. So I think this is a good example here too. It's like the reason I like to start someone tracking calories, obviously there's a different reasons why I would or wouldn't start someone. But I really think tracking calories gives you the understanding of what's in your food.
Yeah.
It's a really good educational tool.
Yeah.
It's also going to be something that technically on paper probably going to get you to your goals a little bit more efficiently than intuitive eating. Not because intuitive eating doesn't work. It's just because you're so precise on what you're doing.
Yeah. You kind of have to earn that intuitive eating through learning the knowledge and kind of getting that baseline, right?
Well, and this kind of goes back to, you know, if somebody has an eating disorder or they've tracked calories and it really triggers them. Yeah. This is where something like tracking calories might be not the best place to go.
Yeah, definitely not.
But it could be it could be used as a tool if the explanation or the understanding of why you're doing it. I think a lot of times people will start tracking calories because they are going to be so meticulous and so precise, and it like almost gets obsessive.
Yeah.
Where if we can kind of shift on, maybe you just track your protein and not the calories. Maybe you just track your whatever you decide. But I think I just wanted to kind of touch on that. So.
Yeah, I think like back to me saying, okay, this is typically what I have for breakfast. It's good for you to know what's in that breakfast. How many grams of protein's in it? How many calories is it? If you're eating it, multiple days out of the week, then you kind of know what you're consuming instead of, like you said, having to hyperfixate on every single thing you eat. If you come to me and you have no problems with like disordered eating or anything, and you have very serious goals, you want to lose this amount of pounds per week, okay, the most efficient way is going to be tracking calories. And if that's something you're interested in doing, it's going to be the most efficient to get you to your goals and be more precise. But for me, end goal is when you get to the point where you've increased your metabolism, you eat pretty consistently, you eat well, being able to release like the stress of, there's nothing wrong with counting your calories. Every once in a while, like if I start eating something new consistently, I'll type it in just to make sure like I kind of know where I'm at with it. But it's not something I want to do every day, and it's not something I found I have to do every day, which is the goal for me. But it just depends person to person.
Yeah, it's kind of like loosely tracking.
Yeah.
And in your mind, you kind of are tracking anyways.
You kind of do the math, and like what things are without having to constantly do that every day.
Well, you're like, I know I had this rough amount of protein. I need this much a day.
Yeah.
I can have the availability, have this treat because I haven't had X amount of whatever earlier in the day. So you kind of just like learn. And you also, I think, too, you have to be very understanding of like what works for you food wise, but also too like how you feel after a meal. Like I always like doing a scale. So like how do you feel 1 out of 10 on your fullness after a meal? Like do you feel like a 2? Well, that means you probably didn't eat enough. If you feel like a 10, well, you probably overate.
Yeah.
If you feel like a 7, usually most people, like if you can end a meal and feel like on a fullness scale like 7 or 8, that's usually a pretty good amount of food that you had a meal. It's not too much, but it's not too little. Yeah. And that will hold you off to your next meal. So
definitely.
It's kind of like just a little.
And I think like aiming for successful breakfast is really helpful, like a high protein breakfast, because then you can just chip away so much of like the pressure of hitting your protein goal or whatever for that day, because it's the first thing you've done. And now it's not like over your head like, oh my gosh, I still have to have 60 grams of protein, like I need to go to bed. I still need 60 grams of protein and this and that. Like for me, I don't really like breakfast foods. I don't really like how they make me feel. So I do a high protein smoothie in the morning, and it has a high protein Greek yogurt with like no added sugar or anything. So that's about 19 grams. And then I do a scoop of pea protein powder, which is 20 something. And then a cup of milk, which is 9. So it just like adds up to everything I put in it. I think it might be over 50 grams of protein. But for me, like that's almost half my protein intake, just done. And it's a quick drink. And then, you got fiber in that, fruits, those kind of things. So setting yourself up for success with that first meal, and it kind of takes some weight off your shoulders for the rest of your meals throughout the day, instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to eat this at dinner, and I don't know.
Well, I think it like also too kind of comes back to, if you can see, this is kind of like a rule of thumb that I like to use with people is, your breakfast shouldn't take you super long on days that you're rushed. Yeah. And your lunch should always be prepped the day before. So then that way, by the time you get to dinner, if you've already had, like you said, 3/4 of your protein, 3/4 your veggies, 3/4 your fruit, whatever. Yeah. By the time dinner comes, there's not much of a decision that you have to make. Yeah. Even if you end up eating 10 or 20 grams of protein in dinner, you've probably already hit 100, 150, whatever your goal is for protein, and just doing it based off that.
And then, because by the end of the night, you want to relax. You don't want to have like stress and be panicked about what you're going to eat. And for me, I've always meal prepped lunches, and then, breakfast should just be easy. It takes me 5 minutes to make. Dinner, I do not like to meal prep. I always like to have
sporadic.
Fresh dinner, and just have kind of what I want that evening. So just setting yourself up for success in those ways. I don't really switch up my breakfast too much, because for me, the most important thing is how it makes me feel. And I know I feel good after I eat that. I know it sets me up for success for my workout. And I know that I'm really taking that pressure off the protein intake with that first meal. Mm-hmm. And then, the meal prep lunches, it just creating less room for error throughout your day by being prepared, right? Like if you go to work, you don't have a lunch, you are taking a late lunch and you're already starving. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're probably not going to eat like the best thing ever. Yeah. And even if you do, is it going to fill you up at that point? Because you're past the point of no return.
Yeah. Well, and that's usually how like binge eating and things like that. So that's kind of why I kind of going back to what I was saying about eating more frequently, smaller, just that's what I find helps, because then I'm not getting to a point where I'm starving.
Yeah. And
when I get starving, it's like,
it's not as much work for your digestive system to have that like big meal that now it has to break down and digest. Yeah.
Well, Casey, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I end off these podcasts by you giving yourself a plug. So
a plug.
Yeah. I usually just like leave it up to, if you want to give your Instagram, if you have a website, kind of like what you do for coaching, what you do for nutrition, just give yourself just one up yourself right now. And then we'll end it from there. Yeah.
So I do in-person training, one-on-one or small group in Abbotsford. My Instagram is Hildebrandt Athletics. And then I do nutrition coaching as well, remote. So that's from anywhere. You can just reach out to me through Instagram if they want to, and I will get back to you on that.
Cool. Thank you, Casey. Thank you so much. And also thank you so much, everyone, for listening to episode 29 of the North Star podcast.